Thank you so much for joining us for a special live from New York edition of Leading Change. My name is Emma. I've got Michelle with me today, and we're going to be talking about how to lead a transformation with a people focus, which obviously is one of my favorite subjects. But before I get going, can you give everybody a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Michelle Raue. I'm the AVP, Chief Claims and Transformation Officer for Preferred Mutual.
So I want to get us started. I kind of already teased the idea of talking about like people-focused transformation. You guys are, a mutual company who's going through a massive implementation, transformation. But what did you guys do prior to software selection to kind of help get you moving in the right direction to be prepared?
Yeah, so this is the biggest thing we're ever going to do. And we knew that we needed to get ourselves prepared prior to actually getting to launching with a provider, because our policies are years out of date. We don't have the modeling that we need. There's a lot of stuff we're behind with. So we started that way back, when we sent the RFPs out, knowing that was going to take a good, 12, 18 months on the selection process. We started the work to get all of that caught up. Like, what products are we going to want to take to market? Launched new underwriting companies, all of the things we would need when we get into this new system or start launching the new system. So there was a lot of pre-work that we did to get there.
So when you take a look at, okay, now we have the solution, we're ready to go, we've got a timeline, we have a scope for the project in place. How are you guys keeping your team involved in that process every step of the way as you're moving through the beginning of this project?
Yeah, so we started in the selection process. We did not, as a senior leadership team, say we're going to pick a system and then give it to the folks. We involved all the frontline people that are going to actually be using it in the demos, and they got to, score all of the vendors, and we used those scores. We were very clear that price was a consideration, right? So you may love a vendor that we end up not being able to afford, but we still wanted their input and their ideas on which system they thought was going to be best. And so I think that helped a lot, and they got to see the systems and see what's available out there and be more educated in that respect. And then once we launched, we took what we call a functional lead from every area, because we're replacing all of our core systems, so everybody's getting touched. So a functional lead and subject matter experts from those teams who would be involved in the inception and implementation, but also gave them the direction of it's your job to inform your groups of what's going on, what's happening, where we are in the process, get their feedback on certain, applications and how things need to work. And so we have worked really hard to keep everybody really involved and up to date. And we give big updates at every step of the way. So we just celebrated, we finished inception, we brought it in on time and on budget. And so we had a big celebration as a company. Here's where we are, we're moving into implementation, what that meant. Because now it's the long haul, right? And we're gonna have to work at not being fatigued in this area. But it's been about, I'm a huge fan of radical transparency and just keep everybody informed, give more information than probably ever wanted or needed, but just, it's their project, it's not our project.
So you mentioned to me when we were talking about this before, kind of some guiding principles that you guys had put in place going into the implementation and probably even the selection process as a whole. How are you kind of like reverting back to those, and how are those principles and that vision guiding the implementation?
Yeah, so we sat down as a group with all those functional leads and the transformation team and said, what do we want out there as our shining star to say this is where we want to get to? And so we came up with those guiding principles, and most of them revolve around, we have some really, really dramatic dates that we have to hit on this. We've got systems that are going to stop being supported, so we've got to get there, and so we've got to prioritize speed over everything else, and so we've been really clear that we need an out-of-box solution that we can set the foundation and then iterate on once we get all of our stuff out of the old systems and into the new. And that's one of our guiding principles. And the biggest theme has been, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. We don't write any special products or pieces. I mean, we are vanilla, P&C, personal lines, small commercial, Main Street. There's nothing we do that's out of the norm, and we should be able to use a system like Guidewire and do it well. So, and we've had to really kind of make sure the vendor understands that too, right? So in some of these inception workshops that we've done, somebody will say, can you do this? And of course they're going to say yes, but we've had to remind them, hey, we are kind of priming the pump of, we need a fast implementation, and we need more out of the box and configuration, not customization. They've been really clear about that.
And I'm like a big skeptic, and we've obviously talked about this, about the idea of out of the box. But I think where you guys are doing it differently is the foundation that you've laid on that people side of things. And really looking at that seems to be, in my experience, what's often missing. And that's why I always come back to like those 3 principles from a change management perspective that are going to help everybody lead more effectively. And I didn't tell you that you were doing this, but you guys set the vision, set those guiding principles, you revisit them, you talk about the why, you refocus people there, you're constantly communicating, and then you're celebrating the wins along the way. And like those 3 things done in your own flavor with like actual executive involvement is what allows you to be able to do things like have an out-of-the-box solution and stay focused on that with the idea to iterate down the line. But that involvement is what makes those 3 pieces so critical. And so I'm gonna say, I think you guys are gonna be able to keep it out of the box, but it's because of that executive involvement and the focus on that people side and like that engagement that's gonna allow you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how carriers can take and implement a system in a black hole and then hand it to folks, because as a senior leader in claims, I've always said that the most important people are the ones out there talking to our customers and doing the hard work. And it's their system, right? They're going to have to adopt and use it to the best of their ability. And I can't tell a company that we're launching with how to do that. They can, right? So they know how they need it to work every day. And so I just, more involvement from the front lines, the better. But you do, when we set this project up, we were kind of thought, who's going to be in charge of the whole program, and the selection, maybe we were talking about somebody that was more mid-level in the company, and I spoke up and said, I think we need a really strong senior leader kind of overseeing the whole project, because I'm not afraid to say the hard things, right? And to push back on certain things. And I think them seeing that there is somebody from the senior team that is involved heavily and pushing back against some of the things that could cause us problems helps, right? I mean,
I think it does. Thank you so much for joining me and everybody for watching. If you're not already, make sure you check out Michelle on LinkedIn, give her a follow and watch all of her videos and the content she's putting out there. And certainly let us know if you have any questions. But thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. If you like what you saw, be sure to come back on a weekly basis and subscribe for more expert interviews focused on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.